We're comparing two flagship robot vacuums, the eufy S1 Pro and the dreame X40 Ultra. They're both excellent, but they do have some key differences we're going to get into. And as of the making of this video, the eufy S1 is a little bit cheaper. We're going to compare features, vacuum performance, ease of use, navigation, and mopping. Both companies sent me these two robots, but I haven't told them I'm actually doing this comparison, and they're definitely not paying me for this. First, let's look at the design. Now, obviously, the eufy attracts the cat a little bit more because he thinks it's just a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. But what's interesting about the eufy actually is the design. You've got this sort of R2-D2 kind of style. Maybe that's the wrong word, but it is very stylish. You've got a clear water tank. You've got a larger robot, and it just looks like something a little bit more aesthetic. On the other hand, the dreame X40 Ultra is a more conventional looking robot. You've got still a pretty big base station. It's a little bit shorter. You can open it up. You've got your dirty water, your clean water in here. It's a little bit more industrial looking, just a little bit more, I guess, conventional. Let's get into the key differences between these two robots. So the dreame has two mop pads that rotate like this. You've also got a central brush roll here, and this particular one has an option which is this anti-tangle brush roll, which is designed to cut the hairs as it's vacuuming and eliminate tangles. Additionally, you've got something called mop extend technology, where this mop can come out and extend away from the side of the robot to get up to the baseboards. You've also got an extending side brush here too, which pops out, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Now, the eufy has a pretty unique design. There's really not too many robots that have this mop roller. This is 11.4 inches wide. You've also got a rubber central brush, which pops out like this. It's also fairly anti-tangle, although it doesn't have any specific anti-tangle technology like this one does. You always get a little bit of hair tangled up in the ends of these brushes. That's pretty normal. I see that in every single robot. And in this case, you've got two side brushes, but they don't actually extend. Another big difference here is that this has an onboard dirty water tank. This actually collects dirty water as it's mopping, and this one doesn't. Now, these are my two favorite mopping robots, and I've actually used both of them for many months in my house. First, I used the dreame X40 for about 3 or 4 months. Now I've been using the eufy S1 Pro for many months. So let's talk about the big differences, and let's start off with mopping. These are two very good mopping robots, and you got cats like this, you should definitely consider getting a mopping robot because they really keep the hair down, which tends to get all over the place because these guys just stir up a tornado of fur. You can see this in my Dyson V15 that is just a couple hours of fur. These two robots take a pretty different approach to mopping. The eufy has a single roller, and it also has a dirty water tank on board. And what it does differently is it actually washes the mop as it's mopping. That's something that the dreame doesn't do. And you can also use a lot of water, in fact, more water with the eufy than the dreame. And it makes a pretty wide path. It's 11.4 inches wide. But the mop does actually not go to the edge of the room. Now, that's because the mop roller gets very, very close to the edge, but it doesn't go all the way there. The dreame, on the other hand, has two spinning mop pads, but it also has something called mop extend technology. And what it does is it gets right up to the baseboards because the mop pops out from the side of the robot and it goes right up to the edge. Now, it doesn't wash the mops as it's working. Instead, it goes back to the base station and cleans them there. That's a pretty typical, normal way that most robot vacuums clean their mops. And in fact, the eufy goes back to the base station too on a regular basis. But the thing with the dreame is it can get right up to the table legs and your chair legs, and it definitely gets closer to those kind of things than the eufy does. The dreame has a very clever side brush that pops out and goes right into corners and grabs coffee grounds. This is something the eufy just doesn't have. And when you are doing some mopping, you definitely don't want to get your carpet wet. So they both have the ability to lift up their rollers. However, there is a bit of a difference. The eufy can lift up its mop roller 12 millimeters, whereas the dreame can only lift it up 10.5 millimeters. However, the dreame has an extra trick up its sleeve. It can leave its mop pads behind in the base station and then go clean your carpets so they stay totally dry. Now, if you got thick pile carpet or some kind of fluffy throw rug, you probably just want to have both of these robots actually avoid those carpets. And we'll get into the apps in just a minute. Now, because I have fluffy cats in my house, I figured it's time to introduce our new scoring system called the Cat Score. Yes, I'm bribing them with treats, but what I'm doing is I'm going to give points for each category, and because I think these are so close in terms of mopping performance, we're going to give them each 3 points. Now, mopping is one thing, but of course a core function of a vacuum should be that it can vacuum up dirt. So our first test is going to be on hardwood, where we sprinkled 20 grams of sand onto the hardwood. We let the robot vacuum do its thing, 2 passes on maximum suction, and then we measured how much it picked up afterwards. So on hardwood, the eufy picked up 100%, and the dreame also picked up 100%. That's pretty much par for the course with a top-tier robot vacuum. But what about carpet? The dreame has 12,000 pascals of suction, whereas the eufy has 8,000. So on carpet, the eufy didn't perform quite as well. It picked up 95% of the dirt we dumped down, and the dreame picked up 100%. Perhaps that is due to the suction, but it could also just be due to the overall design of the robot. So for the cat score in the pickup category, the eufy gets 2 points and the dreame gets 3, just because the dreame was a little bit better at picking up on carpet. And now let's talk about the anti-tangle capabilities of these robots. So the dreame uses a tri-cut brush. This is an optional brush. You can actually order it separately, and it is designed to cut the longer hairs so that they don't get tangled up in the roller, and they make it all the way inside the vacuum and end up in the vacuum bag. And after living with this thing for a couple of months, I think it actually does a pretty credible job with that. It's pretty easy to take out the rubber brush roll that it comes with. So this has got 2 rows of bristles here, and then over here you've got the tri-cut portion. So inside here you've got tiny little blades. Your fingers are actually protected from them. But the idea is when you've got longer hair like this, if it gets pulled over the blades, it's going to cut the hair. It's a little hard to show, so let's try it on our floor. We'll also put down some fluffy cat hair. All right, let's check it out. So far it looks pretty good. That looks pretty solid to me. Let's pop this out. That looks like it did a surprisingly good job. I'm actually pretty impressed because that is a hard task to do, to detangle hair. Now let's see how the eufy does. All right, not bad. Got a little bit of hair cut up in the side brush. Yeah, overall pretty good. And for the anti-tangle cat score, I'm giving both robots 3 points. Now I want to compare the base stations. They both have auto empty, auto mop wash with hot water, and hot air mop drying. So in terms of capabilities, they're pretty close, but there are a couple of differences. Now the eufy looks a little bit different. It's got more of a design aesthetic. It looks kind of cool. Some people thought it looked like a speaker, and you can see how much water you have in the tank because it's clear to you. And also there's an LED display on top too, which is touch, so you can kind of see what's going on with the robot. And it actually cleans the water before you start mopping with it. Actually, it has an ozone generator, and the ozone is supposed to destroy any kind of bacteria and things like that. So as you're mopping, it is putting clean water onto the mop. Now the dreame does everything that you need it to as well. It just does not ozonate the water, and it's not quite as pretty looking. So for this one, I think the cat score is going to be 3 for the eufy and 2 for the dreame. So the next category is obstacle avoidance and navigation. And here is where high-end robots really start to separate themselves from the pack of the less expensive robots. And that is with a camera. Now they both have cameras on their navigation, however they take a slightly different approach. The eufy also uses LiDAR, and it has a higher resolution camera on it than the dreame does. And they've done a lot of work to sort of map out things in a 3D world. They say that it can see objects like you do. So in our obstacle avoidance test, the eufy did extremely well. It's even able to avoid cables in most situations, and that is a very difficult thing for a robot to do. Now the dreame also has an RGB camera. It also has LiDAR, and it uses an LED light to help illuminate things when it's a little bit darker. And it is also very, very good at obstacle avoidance. Both of these did super well in our obstacle avoidance course. However, there is a difference. With the dreame, you can access the camera if you want. You can go talk to your pets. Some people might think that is a security concern, and if that is an issue for you, maybe just put some tape over it or just turn off the camera entirely. For me, I don't really care that much about the camera or talking to my pets, so for this one, they're both really good. They're both going to get a 3 on the cat score. Let's take a look at the apps. I've got the X40 on this side and I've got the eufy on this side. So they both have the ability to show you where you are in the room, where the robot is charging, and they also both have custom floor cleaning modes. They both have the ability to vacuum and mop, vacuum only, adjust the amount of suction that you want, adjust the amount of water that you want. They also both have the ability to use multiple maps. I've got 3 floors in my house. I set it up over here. Same thing over here. I've only set up 2 different floors, but it's pretty easy to switch between the floors, and these will both recognize what floor they are on. You can adjust how you want to set up the dock with each of them too. You've got auto empty, auto mop washing, and so forth. Over here, you got a variety of different dock settings too. And if you really want to, you can actually see your cleaning history on both of them. I'm not sure why you'd really want to do that, but if you're a geek like me, maybe that's a good thing. You can adjust the carpet cleaning settings on both of these too. This one has something called a Boost IQ. It's going to automatically increase the suction when it finds itself on a carpet, and this will too. And I think with both of them, you can actually tell it to clean the carpets first and then go ahead and mop. And of course, with both of these, you can set up cleaning schedules and you can set up specific no-go zones as well. However, on the X40, you can actually use the camera to go around and talk to your pets. And now you can see where I'm filming right over here. And if you want, you can actually have it navigate around your house. They're both pretty good, but I'm gonna give the dreame X40 Ultra 3 points and the eufy 2 points, just because you're able to access the camera, but I'll let you decide if that's a good or bad thing. Now the last category is price. The dreame X40 Ultra is a pretty premium robot. The pricing is way up here. I've seen it at close to $2,000 sometimes. The eufy S1 is typically a little bit less, a few $100s less. And as of the recording of this video, it is definitely less expensive. I'm gonna give the eufy 2 cat points, and I'm gonna give the dreame 1. So what is the final score? I actually didn't really figure this out beforehand. I just did it as I went through the video, and it looks like they both have 18 points because they're both really, really good robot vacuums. And if you're looking for something premium, they both deserve your consideration. But let's talk about some of the big differences. I think if you value mopping, I think the eufy is probably going to be a slightly better choice. I think it is a more aggressive mopper, if that makes any sense. It does a little bit better with ground-in stains. It can use more water, and I'm just sort of more impressed with the mopping capability, primarily because it can use more water. However, it does not go right up to the edge. And it's not like the dreame is bad at mopping. It's very, very good, and it does go right up to the edge. So in this category, which is maybe the biggest difference, it really sort of depends on what you value. It is a very tough call. I've had them both in my home for a couple of months. I'm currently using the eufy just because that's the order that they came in. The eufy is a little bit less expensive, so that sways your consideration. Go in that direction. If you like all the tech and the features of the dreame and the camera, go in that direction. There's gonna be a link down in the description to both of these. It's gonna help me out a little bit. If you purchase from these links, I'll make a little bit of money. There's another excellent mopping robot vacuum video right over here. See you in the next one.